Hello, good to see you again, wherever you're watching from around the world. Welcome to Block 4, Place Value, Ordering Integers and Decimals, Lesson 16. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to write positive integers in standard form. In today's lesson, we're going to investigate negative powers of 10. But before we start, I would like you to do the retrieval practice questions. Pause the video and answer the retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So here you were asked to complete the table. To complete the table in words, fraction, and decimal, the first one is 1/10. So that is 0.1. The next one is 0.01. So that will be 1/100th. The next one is 1,000th. The next one is 1/10,000th. I'm sure you're spotting some pattern, but I won't reveal that pattern yet until later. In the next question, you were asked to use the relational operator or the greater than or equal sign, greater than, less than, or equal sign to complete each statement. And here are our answers. Let's do some new learning. Did you spot this in our previous lesson when we looked at powers of 10? As we divide by 10, we notice that the powers decrease. What happens when we go below this, where we have 10 to the power of 0? So when we do 1 divided by 10, we're going to get 10 to the power negative 1, because remember the pattern? If we carry on the pattern, this is what we get. And what is 10 to the power 1, negative 1? Well, it happens that that is 1/10, because 1 divided by 10 will be 1/10. And then 10 to the power negative 2 will be 1/100th. You notice that? Yeah, 1/100th, which is 0.01. And we can use that knowledge to do some practice. Okay, what we've learned so far is if you continue the pattern that we learned in our previous lesson, you will notice that the negative powers of 10 give us the hundredth, the tenths, the thousandths, okay, so on and so forth. All right, which is 0.1, 0.01, 0.02. Sorry, 0.001, 0.0001, so on and so forth. Pause the video and answer question 1 in 3 minutes. So here are the answers. So we're investigating negative powers of 10. When the powers increases or decreases by 1, the answer is 10 times greater or smaller. Yeah. So that's what we notice. So as you go down, it's 10 times smaller than the one before. As you go up, it's 10 times bigger than the one before. But we can get away from using that pattern where we constantly dividing by 10 repeatedly and just work out or find out the pattern that I said I will reveal to know how to write negative powers of 10, right? So if we want to write this is what it translates to. Thinking about what we learned from the pattern, right? That as you go lower down the powers of 10, so 10 to the power 0, 10 to the power negative 1, negative 2, negative 3 means you're dividing by 10 up to 3 times, and negative 5, you can see you divided by 10 up to 5 times. If you do that, you're going to get 0 0.0001. Now, notice this. You notice this is negative power 5. Notice how many zeros we have. Let me use red. I like red. Yeah? We have 4 zeros. Yeah? Before 1. Look at this one. How would we write this as a power of 10? So if this has, I want you to see the pattern early in the lesson so that this lesson becomes really super easy. Can you see we have 5 zeros? Right? So it's going to be 10 to the power what? Drum roll. I think you should know. That will be negative 6. Okay? You must spot the pattern. Yeah? So 10 to the power negative 6. Right? Because we're dividing by 10 up to 6 times. That's what 10 to the power negative 6 means. And to get this number, that's what should happen. Amir says that 10 to the power 2 is equal to 100. So 10 to the power negative 2 is equal to negative 100. What mistake has Amir made? Okay, I'm sure you remember Amir has made the mistake of using the negative powers of 10 properly. So the negative powers of 10, for example, 10 to the power negative 2 is 1/100th, which is 0.01. So in general, this is not correct. What about this? 100 times 100,000 as power of 10. What will the result be? There are different ways to do this. We could say, well, let's work out 1 divided by 1 million, which will be 1/1,000,000th. Okay, so remember 1 divided by 1 million. So when you write that, you're going to have 5 zeros before 1 because this is 1/1,000,000th is 10 to the power negative 6. Okay. Now, if we think about it, 1/1,000,000th will be 100 times less than 100. Okay. So if we do, because we were told to divide 100 by 1 million, but we've only done 1. So we can then scale this up and say, well, let's times by 100 because that's what we were going to do anyway. That gives us this. Okay, because remember when we were dividing, this is what we get. So if we go further up to multiply by 100 from here, we'll have 10 to the power 5 and 10 to the power negative 4. So our answer should be 10 to the power negative 4. And remember, you're only going to have the 3 zeros. When you write it as an ordinary number, you're going to have the 3 zeros before the 1. But there is another way that you could have done this. But I would really like you to learn this. So we could have said, well, 100 divided by 1 million is a bit like saying, well, what if we cross out the zeros? So we divide each of them by 100. So this is about saying, well, 100 divided by 100 is equal to 1. So let me write it here. And then 1 million divided by 100 is equal to 10,000. So we're left with 10,000. And And 1/10,000th is 10 to the power -4. Yeah, you can see we have 4 zeros. So it's going to be -4. But when you come to write it, it's going to be 0 points. You're only going to have 3 zeros before the 1. So 0.0001. So it's important you take note of these two ways of doing it. I prefer the second one I showed you just now. So what we've learned so far is that you can write negative powers of 10 and you can even do calculations by considering that when you write the negative powers of 10, you dividing by 10 every time. And so you must acknowledge how you write the negative powers of 10 when you write it as an ordinary number. So for example, you spot the pattern that if you have 10 to the power -3, that is the same thing as dividing by 10 3 times. Okay. Now, if you come to write it as an ordinary number, you spot the pattern, you're going to have only 2 zeros before the 1. So it's going to be 0.001. Pause the video and answer questions 2 and 3 in 5 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and worked through this, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Question 2, you have this. You were told to write these numbers in standard form, in the form 10 to the power n. Yeah, as negative powers of 10. So this is what you're going to get. Okay. Did you spot the pattern? You see you have 4 zeros. That would be -5. You have just -1 because, you have nothing, no zero there. And then that's negative, that's just 3 zeros. So it's going to be -4, 1 times 10 to the power -4. So it's important you spot the pattern, then it becomes really easy for you to do. And these ones, you were asked to write the numbers as ordinary numbers. Pause the video and answer questions 4 and 5 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through this, you've worked really hard, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So Whitney says, so here is the question. So Whitney says 10 to the power 4 is greater than 10 to the power 2 as 4 is greater than 2. All right. So is she right? So it says 10 to the power 4 is greater than 10 as 4 is greater than 2. Yeah. No, she's not. Why? I think it's -4, not 4. Why is because 10 to the power, I mean -4, not 4. So 10 to the power -4 is greater than 10 to the power -4, 2, as 4 is greater than 2. Well, 10 to the power -4 is 0.0001. And then 10 to the power -2, 10 to the power 2, not -2, 10 to the power 2 is 100. So there is no way that number is greater than that, which is what Whitney was implying. And then here are the answers. Mark your work and celebrate your success. Well done. Here are questions 6 and 7. Pause the video and answer the questions in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you were asked to write what is the median of this set of numbers. Do you remember how we did median? Drum roll. Okay. You arrange them in order of size and then you pick the middle one. Yeah. You arrange them in order of size and you pick the middle one. Okay. So that's the answer. And then question 7, you were asked a millionth is the number. A millionth is the number formed by dividing 1 by a million. Write a millionth as a power of 10. So a millionth will be 10 to the power negative 6. Remember, you're dividing by a million. A quintillion will be written as that. Wow, that's a lot of zeros. And then that will be 10 to the power negative 18, I think. Yeah. Pause the video and answer question 8 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video, here is the answer. So you were told to put the number cards in ascending order. Ascending means increasing, so from the lowest to the highest. And here are the answers. Pause the video and answer questions 9 and 10 in 4 minutes. So here, question 9, you were asked, what's the value of 10 hundredths as a power of 10? 10 hundredths will be 10 divided by 10 divided by 100. If you divide that by 10, 10 divided by 10 is 1. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So this is 1/10. 1/10 is 0.1. 0.1 is 10 to the power negative 1. Okay, which is what you see here. Then next you will ask, what's the value of 1,000 tenths as a power of 10? 1,000 tenths, the way I would do it is you would write 1,000 tenths mean to divide by 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. 1,000 divided by 10 is 100. Now you remember how to write in powers of 10? 100 is 10 to the power 2. Yeah? Okay. Solve the equation. Here, you were told to solve the equation. So the way you answer that is you solve it as a normal equation, and then in the end, you put your answer as standard form. If you don't know how to do this, do not worry much. We will come across solving equations in later lessons. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson. So what have we learned so far? We have learned that we can write negative powers of 10 as hundreds, as tens. Okay, those, they are equivalent. So when you see 10 to the power negative 1, it means a tenth. And then you should know how to write that as an ordinary number, just following the pattern that we learned in this lesson. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.